Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build yourself a lighthouse. And you can see, well, it's working, and it looks pretty nice. I don't do an interior on this, so pretty much anything goes for that, but for the rest of it, you have a nice exterior. So without further ado, let's investigate how we'd build this. Starting off, you want to find yourself a nice flat area, preferably by the sea, that's kind of the point of a lighthouse. And if you have any nearby vessels like a cargo ship, a harbor, something like that, or a pier, anything kind of coastal, then build it there. Stony shores work very well for this. Anyways, what you want to do is go to the description and there will be a link for Linktree. And no, I'm not asking you to subscribe immediately, please wait till the end. So what you want to do is insert a 21 by 21 circle into the circle generator website. And when we do that, we'll need some deep slate for this, preferably bricks. And the reason being is lighthouses, of course, have foundations. So what we need is a foundation before doing any of this. Anyways, once we do that, then we can start working on the lighthouse itself shortly afterwards. But I recommend 21 by 21, but 23 and 25 are all valid options as well, and I might try one of those instead. Now, I've built a 23 by 23 circle, and you can see I built a smaller few rings inside like this. Pause if you want to take a look. And of course, this would change based off of what you've been doing with your actual size. If it's 25 by 25, this won't work. However, I'm trying to make this tutorial flexible like my other ones, so that way you can build it whatever shape you want, including elongated if you are crazy enough. But anyways, with this little ring of jungle wood and then a staircase up, then what we want is to place blackstone along here, along the top, like this. And then we put some stairs on it, upside down stairs, and then some stairs down here, make it loop around, and now we have a railing. Once you repeat this, then for those rings on the inside, I recommend instead of actually doing rings or generating circles, instead go to the middle and figure out how big you want your lighthouse to be. I used this, and if you want exact block measurements, here are some blocks to help you with that. So that would be 9 right here, so it's decently sized. And then this would be the bottom layer. Of course, the lighthouse will get thinner as it goes up. So starting off with that, and then we can go higher and higher. But start basic, of course. Do the blackstone, then do the stairs, and make sure you have that staircase, and then you can do your first ring of concrete. Right here, you can see I have the cracked bricks on the foundation, just a minor change. And then I have the railing done, nothing too complex. You might want to add lanterns later on, just so it's a little bit more visible at night. Because, there's going to be a giant light up there anyways, some minor lights might help down here. Anyways, we should start building our first ring of concrete. This technically wouldn't be an actual circle, ironically, but it doesn't really matter because, well, the size of it kind of forces us not to. Although technically you could make it perfect, just using a few minor changes. This is why I built a kind of cutout of a circle on the bottom. You should try it too. But anyways, I did 3 pillars, each one 9 blocks tall, like this. And then what you want to do is round them out a little, because here's the problem with my last lighthouse. This is why it's a remake tutorial. If you make them all completely flat as you go up, like you can make this design work if you add enough, then what's going to happen is it just looks like you place blocks on top of each other. Imagine this. This would be a pretty boring lighthouse. In fact, I think it needs to be 1 segment taller. But if I were to make a few minor changes like this by rounding it a little, then it would be a bit more interesting. It has that extra rounding. And then you can do that on the corners, so that way, instead of like square, look at how my cursor is moving, instead of like that, it could be more like this. And when you have it rounded out like that, it sells the illusion of an actual circular lighthouse a lot more, which can be a little difficult. I mean, we are playing the block game, not the circle game, not the triangle game. Honestly, I want to see the triangle game now that I say that. But anyways, build your towers like this, and then make sure they're all rounded out, and you build up like this. And about the red, don't worry about the red right now, because it turns out there's a lot of different ways you can do that too, and it will get in your way if you try doing it at the same time as the actual shape. Right here, you can see the tower now has 4 layers as opposed to 3. It was just able to stop like that. And what you should do now is worry about the red stripe. And here's what you can do. You can make it any number of blocks wide, but essentially you want it to have a slope of 1/2. I know, annoying algebra talk again, but trust me, it works. So what you do is 1 block, then second block, and then you go up and continue this, and then you do the same thing on the bottom to make sure that it's always the same size regardless of where you go up the tower. So right here, 2 blocks. So then we have to go up, and it can be a little confusing, especially around the corners. So potentially you might want to practice it in creative mode a few times. But anyways, you want that red stripe going up and make sure it's consistent all the way through. And if you can do this, then you'll have a pretty interesting pattern going on the lighthouse. And you can see, once you get into the flow of things, it's actually not that difficult. And you can view it like this in order to make sure you don't have those complicated sides. When you do it like this, well, you can only see the fronts, and thus you don't have to make as many complex decisions. With these red stripes going across, and the tower being roughly the height we want, even if it's a little bit stout, well, now it's time to start adding the bulb and such, the things that go at the top. Because, well, I don't expect everyone to want an interior on this place, so might as well make it exterior functional before working on that. And what you want to do is a little bit of a gray concrete border like this, and then if we go up a little bit more, maybe like a few blocks, not too much, might want to use stained glass actually, depending on your bulb. And what we want to do is just a glass border like this. Maybe place blocks here so that way you can make it more circular. Actually, no, just do that. That's not an option. And when you do it like this, then you'll have a nice little bulb, and then we can go up a little bit higher, do the same, and then we can start wrapping off the tower. And that will make a pretty good lighthouse. However, most lighthouses also need a platform right about this height. So, ignore this, this wasn't a failed attempt. We need something right about here. We can't have it any higher because, let's be honest, it's pretty unsafe to turn around and get obliterated by giant amounts of light. So maybe right about here or something, so that way we can fit a doorway, goes inside, all that. So you need to make sure it has actual access, no trying to hit this with an ender pearl to get up. And then, once all of that is done, then you'll have a platform, preferably made of copper grates, but there are other options if you want to experiment. And then, once we have that, we can use some stairs. And it doesn't have to be anything complex, just make sure it connects like this, and then add several of these around. You can also add a railing. In fact, I think that's kind of necessary. This is pretty high up. Now, at night, you can see I have the little platform here with the copper grates, all these stairs. Pause it if you want to take a closer look on how I do it, because I don't think I can really explain whatever mess this is right here. And then I have the little things, making sure they intersect with the railing, and then I have an iron door. For the light itself, I'm actually only using concrete blocks, and I use glowstone on the top and bottom to simulate an actual light. Of course, there's not really a good way of making it shine anywhere. The maximum light distance is always 15. However, if you want it to be shining on something, potentially just add hidden lights on whatever object. You can use stairs in order to make sure only a quarter of the light block is visible. Or if you're in creative and don't care about survival possibility, you can always just use actual light blocks. You can use give commands for these. Anyways, iron door here, and you can see this is not very safe. And we also need a doorway into here. And also another thing, I do need to set it today. You might want to have those things, these little supports, on the bottom as well, especially if you made yours a little bit too thick. As you can see, mine has a very thick base, and that might be a little too much. So potentially what I might want to do is add a little bit of black stone, just like this. Make sure there's room for a doorway right here. You can live on the inside, actually. Apparently, a lot of people used to live in lighthouses if they're the operators. So you should probably make it kind of livable. Then do some black stone along here, and then once you're done with that, do the stairs. And nothing really too complex. It might make your walkway a little bit thin at points, but if you're not using this as part of a PvP set piece, then I don't think it really matters that much. Just add these around, and then it should help your lighthouse look like it has a much more sturdy foundation. And, well, hopefully you don't quite make the same mistake I do with making this lighthouse so interestingly shaped with how thick the bottom is. It really looks like a bowling pin, but I think it's kind of charming in its own right. With that sturdier looking bottom, well, there's a little bit of an issue with this. Besides, it's a little bit thick, but honestly, that's just kind of the charm of the build now. Hopefully you can make a slightly better one with this info. So, first off, you might want to just do this. I don't know, I felt like it looked better. And then, something else you might notice. This area here has a little too much white. It's almost like the stripes don't even matter because they're not uniform. They're twisting upwards, kind of like those weird barbershop things. And that might get a little weird. So potentially what you want to do is add a second smaller stripe to this. And like this, and you go up, same exact design, but it will kind of break up this point here. It will make it a little less awkward to look at. Of course, you might have to adjust some dimensions to make sure it's centered. So right here it would have to be like this. Oh look, Austria. But anyways, you might want to do it like this. Once it's nice and thick, then it should break up the boring whiteness of this build a little bit more. So that way, it's more of a unique lighthouse rather than just generic white-red bowling pin. With the stripes added and an extra one, notice how it's 3 blocks wide here, but it's 4 here because I skipped a step here. Well, that's actually intentional in order to make sure there is more red on the tower. Ironically, because of the unique shape of the tower, this ended up not working too well, but I think it works fine. Right here, notably, this side is more white and this side it's more red, which means from the sea, it actually looks pretty good. So this angle would probably be best for it, depending on how you do it. Potentially, you could really just do alternating not black, red, white, red, white, red, white with stripes. It would be a lot easier to do, although it does lose out on a little bit of style you can do. Then, since I don't want to do a completed interior, because I'll be completely honest, filling this up would actually be really time consuming, and it doesn't really serve too much. Especially since I don't think a lot of people are building lighthouses specifically for living. But right here, notably, you can see I have these windows that look like they have something behind them that you can't see. This is done by having black concrete surround everything on the windows. And since it's surrounding everything, well, it's not connecting to the glass panes and thus keeps the illusion going. And now, you have a completed lighthouse. Although, you have the interior, I'll still work a little bit on the interior to give some general ideas. But now you have the lighthouse, it can provide light, not very effectively, because let's be honest, unless you hide light on where it's supposed to be shining, turning off the night vision, this is as good as you're gonna get. I know, it's pretty disappointing. You might want to hide a little bit of candles, torches, lanterns inside that black concrete area to make up for it. But anyways, turning night vision back on, well, the interior you can do just about anything with. I thought about a generic wooden interior, but realized that wouldn't really work too well. So potentially, maybe something more stone brick, cobblestone-like. A bit more medieval, maybe using some of these kinds of blocks in this section of the tab. Don't forget tuff exists. Bricks probably aren't a good option for this, but you can do a whole bunch of things. And who knows, maybe you want to build this in the end actually, and you get to use things like purpur, and that would work amazing. But there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. But all in all, since this interior isn't very important, I'm not going to complete it on camera. So here's some advice I can give. So 1, of course, use more stony blocks. 2, don't do a spiral staircase up the middle. I know it's tempting and it would be really funny, but listen, I've built lighthouses before. I don't recommend it. you can try this thatched flooring, and this works with actually any log-based block. Anything that can be rotated several times, you can do it like this, and now it looks woven. And then some other things, of course, it has to be completely livable. So maybe make different floors different things, like a kitchen, a storage unit. I recommend putting your bed above the second floor, because that way you don't have the annoying mobs are nearby, no sleeping. And then, with that, you can have a completed interior. However, this is all that I think is necessary for your lighthouse. And, well, it's a pretty nice build. It can wrap up any piers, harbors, whatnot, and it can fit in right into an industrial area, given it's close enough. Since it's not very close, you might have to include a few buildings if you want to connect it to something. But yeah, this is how you build a lighthouse. Not actually that difficult, all things considered. With those final adjustments with the extra lighting, it's the end of today's tutorial. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. It's finally the end of the tutorial, you're allowed to hit it, whatnot, generic YouTuber nonsense. But yeah, you have a lighthouse now, and it can be an amazing set piece for whatever kind of coastal builds you have. So, either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.